From Montana's news leader, this is the MTN 10 o'clock news.
Good evening and thanks for joining us for the MTN News at 10 on Q2. I'm Russ Riesinger. It'll cost you a little more to park your car in downtown Billings or to take the kids for a swim at either Rose or South Park pools for the rest of the summer. The Billings City Council voting on a series of fee increases tonight with the hope of generating additional money to maintain the current level of services. Now, this decision made just weeks away from a mill levy ask by the city of Billings worth $4 million. It's earmarked for public safety. Q2's Mitch Legge joins us now to break down those numbers. Mitch?
Small fee increases to maintain the current level of service. That was part of the reasoning behind the unanimous fee increases at the Billings City Council meeting Monday night. Among the increases, it will now cost between $15 and $50 more to rent a park shelter. And to swim at Rose and South Park pools, the price of every kind of ticket will be increased by $1. According to the council agenda documents, the park's fee increases are effective immediately. As well, starting August 1st, it will cost more to park your car in downtown Billings. That increase is 25 cents on your first 2 hours to park. The parking division hopes the increase will help it be completely self-sufficient, no longer relying on the downtown tax increment finance district to pick up some financial slack.
We don't want to prevent people from being in the downtown because we charge them too much, and yet we need to charge enough to properly take care of those assets. So there's been some definite deferred maintenance. As we just saw, if it weren't for the tax increment finance district, we would not have been able to replace the gate equipment, which was really key to bringing in enough revenue to taking care of these things.
The city expects to bring in about $170,000 in new money thanks to these fee increases. This decision comes just before the vote on a public safety mill levy worth about $4 million that will hopefully help shore up the 2021 city budget. In Billings, Mitch Legge, MTN News.
Thank you, Mitch. Ballots will be sent to voters starting August 28th, about 2.5 weeks before the election day. Last-minute attempt to keep the wrecking ball away from the Metro Park grandstands. Demolition on the grandstands, which have stood for 70 years, slated to get underway soon after they were declared unsafe earlier this year. Today, the Montana racehorse owners and breeders filed an application in district court for a preliminary injunction to halt the demolition, contending that Yellowstone County commissioners failed to consider the historical value of the grandstands, didn't adequately address long-term plans for replacement, and failed to address discrepancies in the existing assessment and contract for demolition. Last month, 3 different proposals for redeveloping most of the facilities at Metro Park were revealed, which could cost between $60 to $80 million. Tonight, there are 2 more reported deaths at a Billings West End care facility. The 2 latest confirmed victims died Sunday and were residents of Canyon Creek Memory Care Center that has now lost 7 patients in the last week. Both women were in their 90s. One died at a local hospital, another at the Canyon Creek campus. As of Friday, the total number of Canyon Creek residents and employees confirmed positive with COVID-19 was 91. The 3rd death reported by the state today is a Bighorn County woman we told you about yesterday. To date, 11 people have died in Yellowstone County, another 5 in Bighorn County. Together, that's half of the state's 32 total COVID-related deaths. Across Montana, active cases today jumped more than 900, or to more than 900, 910 now, after Gallatin County health officials confirmed another 50 cases this morning, 41 of which are active. If you've been in contact with a confirmed positive individual or don't feel well, or even if you're just wondering if you might be asymptomatic, you can now find out. Starting tomorrow, Riverstone Health will offer free drive-through COVID-19 testing. That'll be Monday through Friday. That testing will take place in the Shrine Auditorium parking lot at 1125 Broadwater Avenue. There are some quick rules to follow. Each day, the first hour of testing from 9 until 10 is reserved for those who've been identified through public health contact tracing. Then starting at 10 a.m. until 12:30, testing will be offered to the general public on a first-come, first-served basis. And when you drive up, just follow the signs and staff. Remain there in your vehicle. Riverstone Health will notify everyone of their test results when they're available. Well, over in Wyoming, Governor Mark Gordon extended the Cowboy State's public health orders through July 31st. The orders, which were set to expire on Wednesday, allow gatherings of 50 people in confined spaces or up to 250 persons with social distancing. Faith-based gatherings will continue to be permitted without restrictions, but social distancing is encouraged. With 39 new positive cases today, Wyoming now stands at 1,545 total cases. Dr. Anthony Fauci's standing with the Trump administration's response to the coronavirus pandemic appears to be diminishing. Skylar Henry has more tonight from the White House.
President Trump says he gets along with Dr. Anthony Fauci very well.
I have a very good relationship with Dr. Fauci. I've had for a long time, right from the beginning.
But the president adds he doesn't always agree with the government's top infectious disease expert. And sources on the White House coronavirus task force tell CBS News Dr. Fauci creates headlines that aren't helpful.
Dr. Fauci is one of many on the task force who provides advice.
Dr. Fauci says the rise in cases is due in part to the economy reopening too quickly.
When you try to reopen, if you're not handling the surgency well, what you're seeing is what we're seeing right now.
While the president insists the rising numbers are a result of increased testing.
We test more than anybody by far. And when you test, you create cases. So we've created cases.
The coronavirus pandemic will likely be a major issue in this fall's presidential election. And President Trump's push to reopen states and schools may be costing him votes.
More than 60% of voters in some of the hardest hit areas right now say their state moved too quickly to reopen.
They also told us that they felt that the state did that because of pressure from the Trump administration.
The poll shows the more concerned someone is about getting the coronavirus, the more likely they are to support Mr. Biden. Skylar Henry, CBS News, the White House.
Well, the Trump campaign responded to that poll, calling it a fake news suppression poll, and questioned the methods used in conducting the poll. Former Vice President Biden tweeted that his supporters should ignore the polls and keep working. All right, turning to Chief Forecaster Bob McGuire. Summer's far from over, but tonight we're looking ahead to what could be a La Nina winter. What does that mean?
That came out from the Climate Prediction Center today. It's a long-range weather pattern. You remember El Nino. This is the opposite, La Nina. With El Nino, it started with warm water on the West Coast, but now it's cooler waters on the West Coast. And here's what happens. That high-pressure cell gets up there in the Gulf of Alaska, and the jet stream goes up far north into north of Alaska, and then it comes back down here in towards basically the Northwest Territories of Canada, and then a jet stream drops all the way down into the Central Plains. And at the same time, here's what happens next. You get the Pacific jet stream. That's taking cool, wet weather, and it continues to push it into the Pacific Northwest. And so all of a sudden now we've got stormy weather from Northern California right on into Montana. But wait a minute, why's this? Not only do we see that moisture moving in, but we see cold air dropping down into the Central Plains. You'll see snow in New England, and we're looking at a stormy, wet, cooler winter if we have an El Nino. I should say a La Nina. It's about a 50 to 55% chance. We'll have more about our local forecast in a few more minutes.
All right, thank you, Bob. Yellowstone National Park continues to see decreased numbers from this time last year. That's the bad news. The good news is that visitation substantially increased as the month went on. In all, the park hosted 534,155 visits in June 2020. That's a 32% decrease from June of 2019. However, in the last 10 days of June, traffic counts ranged from 90% to 116% of 2019 numbers. So far in 2020, the park has hosted 667,290 visits. That's down about 49% from the same period last year. Still ahead on the Q2 10 o'clock news, after years of debate, the Washington Redskins are no more. We're going to tell you what the upcoming name change means for one tribe in Montana. And later in sports, we unveil our female Mount Rushmore selections as voted on by you.